This is one of those, I don't know what you call it, heads up. This video started off with me doing a brew, as I do quite frequently, and it'll show you the start of the brew, but there's no video finishing the brew. The video actually finishes with me telling you why the video didn't contain the bulk of the brew, and there might be some triggering involved, because it involves the reason involves someone who wasn't very well. So it's just a warning that the first 6 minutes of the video is about the brew, and then the final probably 14 minutes isn't. Saturday the 10th of April already. Crumbs, don't know how that's happened. Now I'm going to do another of the Burnies, and the reason for that is I want to make a couple of supple changes, mainly in the hop bill, just to have a, let's have a look at that. This is the pH of the water currently in the HLT 6.2. I'll see what it's like once we're mashed in. Couple of supple changes. I'm keeping the grain bill, the malt bill, the same, and sorry, I should start that again, but I'm not keeping the grain bill the same because I haven't got any Golden Promise. So this is all Maris Otter, extra pale Maris Otter going in here. If I remember, I'll put the malt bill up here, and I'm shooting for a final of 26 litres, and that's because there's going to be an awful lot of dry hopping. I'm probably going to lose 4 litres in that. I want 3 litres which I'm going to pop into cans, and the rest is going to go into a corny keg. So that's a lot, that's a big grain bill there. And so what I'm going to do is get that all into probably about 16 litres, maybe possibly a little bit more. We'll see how thick and sticky it is in mash tun. Something slightly different I'm trying today is I'm recircling the mash water through the Herms coil to bring it up to 72 before dumping that in. And partly the reason for that is I hadn't realised I'd set this was at 72. By the time it got into here it was down around 62. No idea why. It is bloody cold today, but and therefore I will be, when this comes up to 72, so I want to sparge at about 65. My guess, and I could look at an online calculator, but you know what it's like. My guess is that I'll bring that down to 66, which is sort of where I want it. This is at 65 because it always overshoots a little bit. When I've got the other mash tun, which is over there, the nice big beautiful one, up and running, which I could do at the moment, but it's a little bit too big for this. I don't know, actually it might not be. Too late now anyway. So the other reason for recircling it now is I've taken all of the airlock out, because generally speaking, because of the way this one's set up, it has the outlet that comes in and then down through the mesh. Not the best way of doing it, and it does always have an airlock. So by doing it this way, I'll remove the airlock first, so I can get the Herms going straight through when I need it to. Yeah. Right, so we're nearly up. When we're there, I will mash in, and then I'll be back. This is an interesting mash. I don't think the temperature dropped below 65 more than twice. I took a load of temperatures from all around, and at its highest was about 71. So I'm not really sure where that's going to go. Anyway, let's start by flushing this out. So this flushes out the Hermes coil. As everybody who follows this channel now should be aware, I'm just going to stop that for a second. I'm going to pop this sparge ball on. Good. And then start a really slow sparge. Nicely. I'm sparging at 76, and that should just then squish out all those remaining sugary, oily, sugary bitties. Good show. And then at the moment I'm just going via gravity. So boom, boom, boom. That is all. So let's give that about 30 minutes. Firstly, sorry about the flickering light. Secondly, this is a few days on. This has been fermenting for a couple of days. Sponding at about 10. So what happened between the last clip and this? Well, and the reason I've waited this long before doing this is that I needed to talk to the person concerned. It's a bit of a story, and for people who just tune in for stuff around brewing, you might not be interested, but I'd like it if you did stick around to hear why there's no bit in between here. So I was halfway through the mashing. I got a call from someone I've known for, I suppose, on and off about 9 years, 8 or 9 years. I don't know them massively well, but well enough. And it became very apparent very early on during that call that they were not all right. In fact, it became very apparent that, in their own words, towards the end of the call, that they'd done something really silly. But at the time, at the beginning of the call, for them, it didn't seem silly. It seemed perfectly rational and a perfectly normal way out of the situation that they were in. And I'm guessing, I don't need to really fill in the gaps of that too much, do I? But I managed to complete most of the brew, going through right to the end of the boil while talking to them. I say talking to them, I mean really listening to them. I think in a probably hour and a half call, I had the headset on. I probably said about 5 or 6 sentences, really, which were kind of, why do you feel this way, and why do you feel this is the only course of action available to you, and thankfully, by the end of the call, they had changed their perspective a little bit, and did not proceed with the course of action which they had initiated. And I think the thing that it freaked me out, actually. I've got to say, it did freak me out And you know, at the end of that brew, my mind was just a complete bowl of fudge. I couldn't find my transfer pipe for the taking the from one beer out of a all-rounder into the corny keg, and just like everything was going in my head was just mushed up. But worth it, I guess, because, and I always try to say to people that I would sooner spend an hour or so listening to you talking to me than spend an hour or so attending your funeral. And it's important to recognize that at that particular time of intense crisis, taking one's own life is a very rational and normal and understandable course of action. And the way it's justified in the mind of the person, and you know, I'll be completely honest, I've been there in the past. You know, I've fortunately always had the panic button there, that it never happened to me in the past when I've been to some very, very dark places. And I think probably a lot more people who are watching this video will understand that more. A lot more people than you would expect will understand that feeling. And the reason that it seems a logical and rational thing to do is because it stops the pain. And the person might say to themselves, it stops the hurt that I'm causing for everybody else. I'm the cause of the ruin of other people's lives. Everybody will be far better off without me. And those justifications are remarkably strong and remarkably powerful. And I've known in the past, and this was a few years ago, with a medic for whom I had a huge amount of time and a huge amount of respect, who chaired a meeting, went to get a coffee, and then threw themselves off the top of a building. And none of us knew why. None of us, and so it came completely out of the blue. So there's two things I want to say, right? Yes, there's a lot of easy ways of taking your own life. You could throw yourself in front of a bus. You could make sure that it's going fast enough. Otherwise, you'll just end up with a tin plate in your head for the rest of your life and daily epileptic fits. Plus, probably, you know, put the bus driver into therapy and all the people who see it. Or, you know, there's other things you could do, like, I don't know, jump off a tall building. But that happened to my mate Si. He was just sat on a bus, and a body, or a person, just dropped beside him onto the pavement. And you know, Si's grown up, and he won't mind me saying this, but it really fucked him up. And still, even now, I suspect does have an effect. But worse than that, for people who take their own life, is that they've taken their own life. And I would always say it's unnecessary. I don't believe anything should really ever be that bad. And if anyone watching this, which is now stretching on a little bit, video, feels that that's their only solution, talk to somebody about it. Talk to me, talk to anyone. I know it's difficult, but it's not as difficult as the alternative. And for other people who may suspect that they have friends who are going through a very similar, potentially a very similar course of action. It's sometimes, you know, it's not the people that you think might be inclined towards that course of action. Sometimes it's the person you might least expect, certainly the medic. And I know a couple of people who watch this will know who I mean, and we're probably all still kind of like quite affected by it. But sometimes it's not the person that you think, it's the person that you think would never actually even be close to that. And that's why it's important that we can try and find a way, and it's not easy, certainly not for blokes, and I've said this quite a lot recently, mainly because it's become much more pertinent and important during the COVID crisis and pandemic lockdown, where we're isolated from many of those kind of support structures that we might normally just have around us. We don't question, they're just there, and they're valuable parts of our support structure without having a label on them saying support structure. But if there's one thing I think that we could all do, it's start talking about those feelings and those emotions, and so for many of us, those fears, because life has changed for all of us, and it's okay to talk about our vulnerabilities. In fact, sometimes we don't, because we think people can use that as a lever against us, you know, use our vulnerabilities against us, like Samson did with Delilah. Yes, but you know what, talking about our vulnerabilities is possibly the best protection we've got, because they can't be used against us if they're out in the open. So here's the thing, guys, and I'll repeat it, and I have spoken to the person concerned quite a lot in the last few days. Spoke to them earlier today. Let's open up a bit, and I've spoken to them about making this video. I said I want to make this video because I think it's important for other people, and they're well up for it. Yeah, they're still fucked up, they're still in a really bad place, but they're not in a bad place where they think that removing themselves from this world is the option. So look, people, stop being stiff upper lip and all that sort of bollocks. Really, bending my arm to try and close this. We all have fears and vulnerabilities. Let's find a way of talking about them, rather than thinking that there's no other option. And I know it's easier said than done, and I know sometimes it feels that there is no other reasonable way, and you've kind of like lost all hope, you've lost all faith in anything ever changing, and you know that realistically that by removing yourself it'll be better for everybody. You know that to be real. And at that time, at that moment in time, it is real, but it isn't real. So please find a way to talk to people, and if you're worried about someone, ask them how they are. Anyway, that's why I didn't document that brew. I was totally frazzled by the end of the day, so I didn't even do the, putting it into the fermentation fridge. So yes, I will come back and do a follow-up to see how it tastes, because I can't even remember putting the hops in into the boil. I know that I did because I've written it down. Well, I'm hoping that I did because I've written it down, but because I was so deeply engrossed in listening. And this is the other thing, right? And I think this is vital for me, is that I don't offer any advice. All I'll do is listen and ask questions, because I'm no good at providing solutions. All right? I will ask questions, that's all. And I won't ever tell anybody what they're doing is right or wrong. But I don't do tea and sympathy either. So yeah. Anyway, fucking hell. It's a long old bit of video that. I'm really indebted to you if you've made it this far, because it's something that I really wanted to, well, I wanted to explain why I hadn't done that video, or followed that video through. But more importantly, I wanted to just say, for crying out loud, find a way to fucking talk. Find a way to listen. And if that's not one of the most beautiful little shots to finish, I don't know whether I should call this brew or vlog. I might call it both. But anyway, that, for the time being, is that.